12 months on now since you last sat in this van. I'm not sure how you quite keep up with everything.
I just don't sleep. I'm a workaholic, always have been.
She said that you were going through another midlife crisis and selling some of your classic cars. Why?
2 reasons.
Do you have any emotional connection to any of those 20 cars?
No, because these are just things. They're just things.
You never always get your full opinion of what Mike Brewer actually loves and likes. But I'm guessing, like reading through the lines, you're a... Well, it's actually 12 months on now since you last sat in this van, Mr. Brewer. Thank you for coming back and talking to me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming down to my little business.
I know. Well, it's not so little. There's actually cars and vans everywhere, and I'm not sure how you quite keep up with everything, but somehow you do.
I just don't work. I was going to say don't work, don't sleep. I just don't sleep. I'm a workaholic, always have been.
Well, we're down at One Automotive, and my first question is, I know you as Mike Brewer. You've got one of the most recognisable personal brands in the world of automotive. Up north, you've got your dealership, Mike Brewer Motors. Why is this One Automotive, and we're surrounded by vehicles for sale here, not Mike Brewer Motors?
Really simple. It was the address. The address of this building. When I bought this building, it was for my cathedral. This was for my personal car collection. And when I had it, I rented the space for charity as well. So I did a lot of charity events. Or if somebody wanted to book the space, and people like Auto Alex booked it several times, and Car Dealer Magazine, and lots of people booked the space. I'd move all my classic cars out, let them have the space, and I'd give all the proceeds to charity. And I had to create a business around that so I could make sure that charities got the money. So the address of the building is number 1. Heathcote Estate. So why it's number 1 Heathcote Estate, I created number 1 studio. And then when I decided to stop all that, because it got to a point where all my classic cars were decaying, even though they're in this lovely building, if you're not driving them, if you're not using them, they do start to fall apart. And I was so busy around the world doing wheeler dealers, either living in LA or I was doing wheeler dealers world tour. I was so busy touring around the world, the cars got neglected. Every time I come back, there'd be something else going wrong. So I decided to get rid of the classic cars, turn it into a business, because I found somebody who wanted to create a business with me. And then it went from One Studios to One Automotive. So there's no reason why it's not called Mike Brewer Motors. It could be called Mike Brewer Motors South or Mike Brewer Motors Midlands or whatever you want to call it. But no, it was just a thing that stuck. Plus, I thought I could create another brand, One Automotive, and it's worked. You know, we started this. It's been phenomenal since we started it, and it's nice to create something new.
So how long has this been One Automotive, not the car collection?
2 years.
Oh, has it really?
Yeah, 2 years.
It feels like yesterday, but I must have been watching it in preparation for the last podcast we did.
Yeah.
But I think it was you and Johnny Smith, from memory, sat in here when all of your car cave
That was just
was in here.
Yeah, that was just towards the end of it. 2 years later, and we've sold over 1,000 vehicles out of this one little space. We've sold 1,000 vehicles in the local area and people up in Scotland.
Well, a lot of people talk about work-life balance. This was clearly life before work in here.
Yes.
And I've recently seen a video, because anybody that loves social media needs to have made sure they've seen your partner Michelle's videos that are very popular, and you'll be hooked on them as soon as you see them. Always starting with, what's happening? What's happening? The first time I was introduced to this was when I popped out the van at your drive at the last podcast. Where was I going with that?
Well, because Misha would have popped out, you would have popped out the van. First thing she would have said to you is, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
I know where I was going with that now. She said in her latest What's Happening, that you were going through another midlife crisis and selling some of your classic cars. Why?
2 reasons. Number 1 is we bought a sizable house, and the house that we bought needed a lot of work, and very much like you take on a project. And when I take things on, it's a bit like buying an old car, you know, buying an old house, you see it, you kick the tyres, you walk round it and you think, yeah, it's all right, but it's got ripped interior and, it needs new suspension. But very quickly, when you start taking things off, you realise that, that you've got a lot more work to do. And the same is true with this house. So once we started peeling back the layers of luxurious fabric, when we bought it, it turns out it's a bit of a mess, the house. So it's cost a lot more money than I expected. And one of the ways that this sort of come around is that I started to think, well, my cash assets are really in the cars. And I've got lots of cars around me. I had something like, 20 odd cars at that point. So I thought, well, the cash assets are in the cars. I could see a downturn actually in the classic car world in terms of prices starting to come down. I could just see the beginnings of that. So I thought, now's probably a good time to cash out of a few cars because they're at the peak. And I did really well. Yeah, I sold a few cars at auction, enough to pay for a roof on the house.
When someone is a wheeler dealer, quite literally the wheeler dealer,
Yeah.
do you have any emotional connection to any of those 20 cars?
No, because these are just things. They're just things, and they're for sale. There is emotional connection. Don't get me wrong. There are cars that just burst. My heart breaks in two when I have to say goodbye to them and let them go. But if it's for the better, as in, it fills my bank account up and it's going on to somewhere better, then I completely get it, because in my opinion, it says on the registration document of a car that you're the keeper of the car. You're not the owner. You're just a registered keeper. And we should all remember that. So at the time I owned it, I kept it. And I always think, well, if I want it, I'll buy it back again. Once I've put the roof on the building.
Quite literally. Put the roof over your head.
And I've put the tiles in the bathroom and I've worked a little bit harder and sold a few more vans and cars, then maybe I can go and buy that car back again and I can be the keeper of it for one more time.
I remember we recorded our last podcast at that beautiful home that you've taken on. What is that like? Because you spoke during that episode, but I obviously never knew when you got there about the story of the chandelier.
Yeah, it's
back in the day.
Yeah, it's a good story.
So what's it like being at a place that you must be so proud of, putting that work and time and money into it? But do you ever have those moments where, even though life is hella busy, and I actually saw in the latest What's Happening video just quite how busy life's going to be this year again. But do you ever get that moment of reflection like, I'm actually really proud of myself here?
I don't have a chance to sort of enjoy it. I'll be honest with you, Ben, and it's one of the faults that I've got. I actually resent the house at the moment. I'm in this resentful stage. Michelle's still in the honeymoon period. After a couple of years of ownership, I'm in the I can't stand you anymore period because it's never ending. It is the Forth Road Bridge. It is a massive, stupid property to own. It's way beyond my capability. I've taken it on and we are doing a good job of it. And it will be amazing when it's finished. But the moment it's finished, I'm just going to want it gone because it's just too much of a thing. Are
you like with houses how you are with cars over the years?
Once I've done it, I've done it. And once I've been there, tick that box. There's a couple of cars that get you and they put a hook into you and they won't let you go. One of them you've seen sat here in my dealership is the Mini. So that's my 64 Cooper S. I've still got that car. So that one didn't get sold. And why? All the cars that, the Lotus Cortinas and the Ferrari and the amazing Citroen Maserati that I had and the Porsche 911, the red one, my little hot rod Porsche 911, all those cars have gone. And yet the Mini is still here. And there's a reason for that because it's still got this hook in me. Plus I've got one other, which is a 964 Turbo. 1991 964 Turbo that also I can't let that one go. I haven't finished it yet, so I'm still working on it like the house. But once I've finished it, I got a funny feeling that one's firmly got a hook in me. It won't let me go. There's something about it.
Because I always see you, whatever guise it's in, whether at a show or talking to people about their cars or negotiating a deal on a car or trying to talk about how you're going to redo a car up, you're always positive. So I never ever hear you talk down or bad on a car. So you never always get your full opinion of what Mike Brewer actually loves and likes. But I'm guessing, like reading through the lines, you're a big Porsche guy.
Love Porsche. I love the stupid engineering. Technically it shouldn't work, should it? Half a ton hanging out over a rear axle. Shouldn't work. It should just be spitting you off left, right and centre down the road. But they're engineered in such a way and they have thought about the engineering. And look, all Formula One cars, engines in the rear. And there's a reason for that because they handle better. It feels better being pushed along the road rather than pulled along the road. And I would say that's true with a Porsche. It feels brilliant to be behind the wheel. The engineering is mind-blowing and, it just makes you smile every time you drive it. But then I'm going to contradict myself because quite possibly the best experience you'll ever have, ever, in any car, is in a Mark 1 Mini, which is going to pull you down the road with its little engine. But that is just ridiculous. There's something illegal about driving that car. You should be arrested at every single roundabout by the police, because surely it can't be that much fun to drive a car, but somehow it is. You know, it's a legalised go-kart.
You may be surprised to know that not that long ago I actually drove one, which is not the kind of thing that I normally get to drive or the kinds of cars that I'm normally interested in. But my business partner at my digital marketing agency, Louise, actually has one, and asked if I'd like to drive it to our Christmas lunch. And I did. And I could not get the smile off my face the entire way.
It's ridiculous.
There's so much road.
Yes.
You learn there's so much road.
And every time you get behind the wheel at 30 miles an hour, you think, what? I'm breaking the law. This is illegal. It must be illegal because I'm having fun, because the police don't like us having fun in our cars. But even at 30 miles an hour in a Mini, you're having fun. It just feels brilliant. That's why I love them.
Well, you're also clearly a very busy guy in between getting the opportunity to try and take these cars out and do lots of funny things. And growing up for me, I was always told by everybody, until I've been so fortunate enough to be surrounded with myself with people like yourself and other guests of the podcast and the whole group, really. Always everyone I knew did like one thing, and it was always a route to one thing. And I meet people like you, and it's like, I've got this dealership here, and I've got this dealership up north, and we've just filmed a series of Wheeler Dealer doing this, and we're just going to go and do that. And then that show's going on quite. And it's like, oh, okay, I get this. This is my kind of people. This year's looking like it's still going to be that busy again. Are you still as motivated as you were when you first started all of those series? Are you still getting the same enjoyment out of working at that pace at this stage of life?
I'm sort of more motivated than I ever was. It's kind of weird. These are exciting projects. You know, I like building things. So building Mike Brewer Motors up in Sheffield, we built that to a business that now is automatic. You know, people are going to come there because we're reviewed 100%. Customer satisfaction rating, we're reviewed fantastically, we win awards, people are going to default to that dealership whether I'm there or not. It's a brilliant business run by amazing people, so that becomes automatic, and it's been created. And One Automotive is going down exactly the same path as that. We created a business that creates these amazing vans. We also do cars as well, but we created it in such a way that we've made it automatic, as in, you know, the vans come in, they go through a process system where each van gets stripped down, then they get rebuilt back up. And we wheeler dealer every van, as you can see. They get splitters, body kits, big wheels, roof rails. They get Bentley stitched interior. They go through the detail system. Every single vehicle that comes through our dealership, serviced and MOT'd and prepped before sale. So if somebody turns up with a credit card this afternoon, taps it, they drive away. As simple as that. It's ready to go. So this then becomes a business that becomes functional and automatic. Plus, I like employing people. You know, we create Mike Brewer Motors. At one point, we had over 100 staff here. We're up to 7 staff here.
Can I just pause you there for a second? Because my experience the last year is I've had to take on a lot more people across all the businesses. It's been one of the most stressful things that I've ever done. You just refer to it as you love employing people.
I do.
I get it, but does that also come without brushing it over too much with a hell of a lot of stress sometimes?
It certainly does. And it's very difficult to find the right people. And I'm not saying, you know, the 7 people that work here now are the 7 people that originally started here. You know, there has been a lot of wheat and chaff come through the system, and you find the people you can work with. You find the people. I've had to employ my daughter, Chloe. You know, Chloe comes to work here because she'll have a vested interest in making sure that the business is run correctly because it belongs to her parents. And my business partner is tenacious about trying to find, you know, the right people to work with. And it's been difficult. You know, you get let down by staff an awful lot. And that I find difficult because, you know, we're great people, easy to work with. But ultimately, you know, you find the right people to work with, then the business starts to find its own feet. It starts to become more automatic. You can step away from it a little bit more. With this, I've thrown myself at this for the last 2 years to get it where it is. But this year, I'm back on another series of Wheeler Dealers. I've got plenty of other shows, got another show on another network as well. Plus, possibly a show about this dealership on Discovery Channel. And that means that I can sort of step away from a day-to-day running of this and leave that up to the team to do it. and concentrate more on the other stuff.
Do you find that then through your career, because obviously I'm trying to set my life up in a very similar way in the sense that build a personal brand that people can trust and know and understand the person behind the company, because more and more so these days, I think it's probably the most important it's ever been to have a name associated with a brand, because consumers don't necessarily care anymore about the brands. They want to buy into more than just a kind of brand and a name. Do you find that you have years then when you have to throw yourself into the businesses and years where you can remove yourself out?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm explaining. So Mike Brewer Motors up in Sheffield, when we first created that business, it's got my name above the door. So I had to be front and centre all the time. You know, I lived up there. I was going backwards and forwards every weekend to make sure I was meeting staff, meeting customers, meet and greets. We did car shows there. We got the business to a point where people could start to trust that the business was genuinely owned by me. You know, it's just not my name hired and put above the door. It is my business. So once you get to that point and people can trust my name, they can see that, you know, I'm a trustworthy guy. You know, I can't rip people off because I'm in the public eye, can I? And so I can't do that. I never have, never would do anyway. So people can come to us and buy a vehicle. And the same is true for wheeler dealers. Same is true for One Automotive. Same is true for anything that I do in life. You need to build trust with your audience first. And that's what you've done with this brand. You know, your Road to Success podcast is what Matt Armstrong's done with Matt's business. It's what Tavares has done. It's what Auto Alex is doing. It's what all the great YouTubers and podcasters out there are doing. They're building trust with their audience to, I'm going to rely on this guy. I want to go to him each week. I want to tune into this guy each week, or I want to buy a car from him. That's the kind of guy I want to buy a car from. And that works, you know, but to get there is hard work. You know, it's not easy. You can't just switch on a phone and, you know, create trust in one post. You have to work hard at it. You have to build your brand. This is the most reviewed business, or it is now the most reviewed culture, should I say, for a cup of coffee. You know, people come here at One Automotive, have a free cup of tea. They'll go online and review a free cup of tea and say, I went there, I didn't buy a car, but Mike made me a crappy cup of tea. And
to be fair, it's a cracking cup of tea.
No, I said crappy. They might say crappy.
No, it's all right.
That my tea's good. Chloe made that. But they might review my tea even though they've never bought a car. And I get people review my business, both Mike Brewer Motors and One Automotive, never been here. But because they don't like what I do on the TV, they go, I wouldn't buy a car from that shark. He's an arsehole. I'd never buy a car from him. And they'll review it and give it a 1-star review. And that damages the business, the 6 or 7 people that work here, the 100 people that work up in Sheffield. It damages a business, but they've never been here. It's just because they've formed an opinion about something you've done on TV. So it's hard to build that trust with your customers, with your clients, with your viewers. You have to build that trust. And for me, I've been building it for nearly 30 years. You know, you've just started. You've got a long way to go.
With me, though, and with a lot of the names that you've just reeled off, we're building our brands in an era where YouTube is the thing. It's just where you go. It's just what you do. And I think we get access to so much data at our fingertips within seconds. The question of would we ever approach a TV brand, for argument's sake, probably doesn't really enter a lot of our heads a lot of the time, because it's just not what we do, if you know what I mean.
No, it's not worth
creating the content.
You know,
you've always built your brand from the beginning, way before YouTube was ever in existence, off a lot of the time working with Discovery. I know you've mentioned that you're putting programs on another channel. I think Quest has just taken on. Am I right in saying that
Quest is owned by Discovery, so they've got the latest series of Wheeler Dealers. We're on HBO and HBO Max in the US, but I'm also working on a project with UK TV at the moment, which is a different channel from Discovery.
How much data do you get to absorb from those channels, and like what's going on with the viewership, the retention, all the rest of it, compared to what we do kind of in our worlds of YouTube?
You get very little from the network. You know, we don't get any information. There's not a call once a week from the boss saying, well, guys, we rated really high yesterday. We don't get to see that, and they don't tell us, because I think they don't want to empower us, you know, with that information. If you've got a star that you're saying each week, you know, Charlie Sheen, you know, 2.5 Men, 20 million viewers this week. Well done, Charlie. Charlie Sheen's going to start demanding, like he did, you know, Tiger Blood and 100 million a year. And that's what networks don't want to do. They don't want to empower people. All we can do is measure the popularity by its popularity, you know, and the network will know, you know, what the figures are and how it performs. And somehow, you know, we get to feel that the show's got some kind of movement and some traction, and people like the show because I get to see it when I go to the supermarket or go and fill up my car with petrol. You've turned up to come and do a podcast with me. So it must be working, you know, after, and the fact that the show's still going after 22 years. It wouldn't be going after 22 years if it wasn't popular, if it didn't work. So, yeah, we get very little information. So it's completely the opposite to your YouTube generation. We get nothing. But we gather we're doing okay because somebody keeps paying me and I keep turning up to work.
So how does that work? How in the sense of how do you negotiate a new series every time it comes up for wheeler dealers? Like what is that process? Because it's so alien for so many people.
Pay me more and I'll
But then what weight have you got to go off if you don't have the data?
You won't pay me anymore. Okay, I'll just do what I did last year. I mean, I am literally a coward. Will you give me any more? No? Okay, I'll just do what I did last year then. No, most people have agents and managers that do all of that stuff. I don't have anyone. I have a gut feeling of, you know, what I think my net worth is and what I should be doing and what I think that they'd be prepared to pay for somebody like me. The difference is with wheeler dealers, and anyone out there that knows me and worked with me on wheeler dealers, they get more than a TV presenter. So I'm not just turn up here at 9 o'clock, say these words, go home. You know, I'm not. I'm the producer of the show as well. So you get the show built. You know, I help build the series, build the show, build the look, build the feel. So I'm a lot more involved.
Explain that, because so I can put forward to you, like, before a podcast today. So I've done 2 podcasts today, and I like to the night before come home, watch some videos, soak in some content, just get into the mode. Then I'll sit in the van, Toby will drive, and I'll just absorb content and keep watching it. So I do better visually than I do when I write stuff down. I just write stuff down so in case a guest ever stops talking, I'm like,
yeah. Where to go?
Where to go? Talk us through how you prep for a season of wheeler dealers. And I think it's a good time to ask, am I right? Because you're currently
just about prepping
for one to go forward now. How does that all work? Paint us a picture.
Okay, so it works right at the concept of the series. So this is another world tour series. So we've just done a world tour where we did 4 episodes in Australia, Germany, France, the UK, Tavares over in Miami. So that was a complicated series to put together because you're in different territories all over the world. And it was such a success. So I'm told, remember, I don't know this, but it's such a success. We're just about to embark on doing another series of world tour. This time again to Mexico, Brazil, Turkey. We go to the regions that are, you know, we sit with a map, literally, and Discovery executives, and we'll work out the regions where the show is popular. So, you know, Mexico, Brazil, or Latin America, it's a very, very big show. It's very popular. It's also very popular in North America, but we've done it to death. We'll, of course, do a UK show because this is our territory. It's cheaper and easier for us to film here. But we're going to do a show in Turkey. We've just been to Turkey to do a little bit of pre-filming. And when we went down to Turkey, it's huge. You know, it's like the Beatles have arrived when we turn up there to talk about it.
I saw it on your story.
It's nuts. It goes nuts in Turkey. The same is true for the Czech Republic, where we're going to do an episode. We're also talking about doing a Swedish special, which would, of course, encompass both Saab and Volvo, and a German special, rather than just talk about Porsche or Mercedes or BMW or Audi. Why don't we just talk about Germany? And talk about, you know, what Germany and its car industry has done for the world. So that's the genesis of this sort of next series.
What I take away from that as well is I'm not sure you get that with YouTube. I'm not sure you get that global reach, like what you're talking about, because it's quite interesting there that you mentioned you go to Turkey and you're like madly recognised, like, would that happen if Matt turned up in Turkey? I don't know.
I got a feeling it would with Matt.
Probably it's Matt. I've seen it happen on a beach in Spain. But
I think it would with Matt. I think Matt's got a global reach.
But with Discovery and with BBC One and like all those kinds of channels, they have got a reach all over all over the world.
Plus they've got a promotional bandwagon behind them. Plus they advertise on the side of buses, at the tube station, at the bus stop. So they have got marketing behind them, which is what you don't get on YouTube. So for us and me putting the show together, we will look at how this could work, how this next series of the World Tour could work. Then choosing the territories is not as simple as saying, well, let's go to Turkey because we're popular there. But what does Turkey have to say in terms of motoring? I can't just turn up. And if Turkey doesn't produce a national car, what's the point of going? Well, I'm going to turn up in Turkey and buy a BMW or an Audi. Or should I say a Volkswagen Passat, which is all they seem to drive around in Turkey. So why would I do that? That makes no sense at all. So fortunately, Turkey does have a national car. It's called the Anadolu, which is brilliant. It's sort of a reverse engineered plastic Mark I Escort. It's quite funny as well. So we could find one of those, and they're quite abundant out there, and restore one of those. The same in South America when we're down there. There's a car that's been on my list forever. And the very first time I see one of these cars on the internet, I stared at it for like an hour. I kept going back to it thinking it was a made-up image, because why don't I know about this car? Why doesn't the world know about this car? It's a Porsche Volkswagen thing, but why don't we know about it? It's ridiculous that we don't know about it. We should all know about it. But it's a car that they made in Latin America, Volkswagen, never sold it in the rest of the world. If they sold it in Europe, they would have sold it by the bucket load. There'd be car clubs dedicated to it. We'd all be going crazy for it. And look it up. It's called the VW. There's two versions, SP1 or SP2. And so I'm going down there. It's a tick box in my life. If I don't do one, I failed. So I'm going down to Latin America to do one of them.
So that's all the research that you're then putting together. Correct. To understand how to put this show together and why you're going to the places that you chose.
All I'm talking about at the moment is territory and car. There's a lot more to it than that, because we haven't got a car show unless we've got a car that fundamentally has got things wrong with it. Our car show, it's like Matt Armstrong has to buy a car that's smashed up. Otherwise, he hasn't got a show. If he goes out and buys a Lamborghini Huracan that's beautiful, goodbye, see you next week. What's the point in watching Matt Armstrong? There isn't one. So like wheeler dealers and like everyone else out there in the world is trying to do, look at that, look at wheeler dealers is basically, I need to buy stuff that's broken and fix it, otherwise we ain't got a show. So fundamentally, then I go, okay, so let's go down and buy an SP1 or an SP2 Volkswagen. What are the common problems with these cars? It could be the steering, could be the VW flat four engine, it could be the gearbox, it could be anything. But we can research the problems with those cars and set about finding the car with those problems that we could buy. So I got the opportunity to fix them and show the audience and educate the audience how to put those cars back on the road and make a profit out of it.
Are you starting that process with a budget, or are you doing that process and asking for a budget?
No, we start it with a budget. So we're given a set amount of money from Discovery Channel to go and make the show. And the truth is that some shows will be cheaper to make and some shows will be way over budget to make. But we've been given a set amount of money. So it's our job to balance that over the course of the series and hopefully end up with a, zero balance. After 10 shows, we want to make sure that we delivered 10 shows and the account says 0.00. 0.00. That's right. And they've got their shows and we've spent all the money. It's all on screen.
What's been the easiest year? What's been the toughest year of working within that budget?
Oh, blimey. We've had years. We did have a year, actually, where everything was just perfect. I can't remember what season it was, probably season 16, where every car that we bought just went through the workshop, lovely, parts were available, we could get things painted, we just worked really hard. We'd sort of got to the peak of our suppliers, all the suppliers we were using, this is pre-COVID, everything was just beautiful, everything was easy to do, all the cars came in the workshop. Automatic, it became automatic. And then after COVID, suppliers have disappeared, painters have disappeared, members of camera crew have disappeared, staff have disappeared. So it's been a little bit more of a challenge after COVID to try and put it back together. And that then manifests itself, and you might have to pay more. You might have to give a cameraman an extra, few quid a day, or you might have to, pay a painter, an extra 500 quid to paint a car, or whatever it is. It manifests itself in more, and that erodes the budget. And of course, like all things in the world of either YouTube or media or television, everyone wants to budget smaller and smaller each year.
With so many more people creating content, you mentioned Freddie Tavares, but you actually brought him into Wheeler Dealer, the show. With Matt, with Auto Alex, who's a really big friend of yours. You're so influential in Alex going off on his own and creating that whole multiverse that's coming from it. Do you get inspired by that content, or do you find it more difficult because there's so much content out there right now to try and create something different?
I absolutely love it. I'm obsessed with it. I mean, it's my watch. As soon as I'm home, I'm just onto YouTube, whether it's DDE, whether it's Tavares, whether it's whoever, I'm obsessed with content online. I absolutely love it as well. I think it's so creative. I come from a world of producers and executive producers and very complicated television story arcs, narratives, bumps, all these things have to be thought out and put into the shows. Where in YouTube, it's just somebody with a GoPro and they can go and create content that's amazing and free and really easy and engaging to watch. It all comes down, it's still character driven. All the people that we mention, they're very much character driven, but they all, these guys, they want to be TV stars. They want to be famous. They want to be YouTubers. So they're producing extra versions of themselves. If you ever met Alex, which you have several times, there is a version of Alex that's just Alex,
I've got to tell you this. So I was lucky enough that I've had this idea for the last 2 years going to SEMA that I'm going to rent a car and drive to the Grand Canyon. It was always my thing, like just got to do it at some point. And my US van studio hadn't turned up on time and I was stressing and it wasn't there for SEMA and it was on its way and it had been delayed. I just didn't know what to do. And Alex had arrived and the boys, and we had gone down to breakfast and met them. And they're all just sat there. And I'm like, oh, what are you boys up to today? They're like, oh, we're going to rent some cars and drive to the Grand Canyon. I just looked up and Rory looked at me and went, yeah, you can come. So I like straight on zero, rented a Corvette C8 and they had a Cybertruck and we drove out to the Grand Canyon all together. And it was just, I felt like my eyes couldn't take in what I was seeing. Just all inspiring view. And obviously know the boys very well. And we walk up to the edge of the gorge. Everyone's mouth has dropped and we just can't believe what we're seeing. And Rory goes, lads, I think I'm going to shit myself. And we'd driven right into the gorge and suddenly his stomach had gone and he had to run into the woods.
He wasn't scared being at the edge of the gorge. He actually genuinely had to go and have a shit.
He genuinely did. And I've actually put a video on my TikTok
of him
filming him coming back and saying what had to happen. He's like, I don't know what come over me, lads, when I saw the gorge. It just happened. But it's so lovely because those three together, Rory, Taylor and Alex, are so flipping genuine. And I think that's the thing that I've learned the most out of doing the podcast and having guests like yourself and especially Tavares as well, is just how genuine like the whole people are together. And whether you're on TV or YouTube, everybody seems to come together in this world.
They certainly do. And I've embraced them, I've encouraged them, I've guided them and I've embraced them all. And lots of people out there, I get other people that come, oh, but you're really jealous of the success, that they've had. And I go, not at all. I absolutely love it. As me living in my castle up the road and a big car collection. Yeah, of course I'm jealous, right? No, not at all. I absolutely love them. I think it's a world that's passed me by. I mean, Tavares and Auto Alex say, no, we want you on YouTube. We want to create a YouTube channel with you. And I get it, but I think it's a world that my audience is a slightly older generation audience. I don't think they're really into YouTube.
I'm going to so disagree with you. But do you know why I'm going to disagree? Because I realised that I grew up and my fix of crash damaged cars was the first series I can remember watching, other than Top Gear, because I love Top Gear, was the Trading Up series.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm going to say, if I got my detail right, you had a yellow Ferrari in that series at one point.
A red Ferrari.
Was it red?
Yeah, it's a red Ferrari 348.
Maybe I'm getting confused because Alex's 360 is yellow. But it was a red Ferrari 348. I remember the Ferrari, and it was trading up to a Ferrari, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was it. And I watched that series, and that was the first one, and I absolutely loved how you took the car from X to Y and then got rid of it.
All real as well. Bloody stressful that was.
But my generation has 2 clicks to get that off a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Where to get it onto TV, there's a few, to get us onto TV, to get me onto TV, there's a few more clicks of the button to get to that channel to watch the show. And knowing you, I mean, look, we're sat here in a business that we weren't talking about the last time we did a podcast together, yet you've done it and you created one, and yet you're going to create a new series and you're going to create a new this. With someone that loves projects so much, why would you completely write that off?
I just think it's passed me by. Honestly, I really do. I've had I don't really engage with YouTube personally. I mean, I engage with YouTube because I watch all the YouTube content, but me personally, if I'm out there doing a video, I'm thinking I've got to talk about myself for 25 minutes and get in a car and drive down the road and, film myself.
Different mind process.
It's a different thing. I have people that help me do that in my world. There's a cameraman or a director or an assistant producer that says, Mike, why don't we, and it's cut up, all the bits that I say throughout a day are cut up into 25 minutes, the 25 minutes I'm on the screen. And that is not what you get on YouTube. YouTube, you just run a camera and then just waffle for 25 minutes. And I don't know if people want to listen to me for 25 minutes. But I think people just turn over or turn off. I'm not too sure they'd engage.
But you mentioned a really interesting point there, which was actually the editing side of it. So you've talked about choosing the location. You've talked about the budget. You've spoken about where you got to go. You've spoken about the fact you've got to end up with zeros in the account. What else goes into these series? You got to go and film them, and then at some point they've got to be edited and say sign off, put live.
It's quite difficult. So you imagine turning up on a set of wheeler dealers, especially if you're featuring other cars and other people. You could end up with 3 or 4 cameras, and they're main cameras. These are broadcast TV cameras, not your little Ronins or a GoPro. These are big things.
iPhone, Matt Smart 2 channel is filmed on the
iPhone, so none of that, unfortunately. And then once you've got that footage, there's the in-car footage as well, which is usually on either Blackmagics or GoPros, effects cameras on the outside of cars. There'll be drone footage as well. So all of that footage, all of that media has to be managed, and there'll be a data wrangler. It's called a DIT on production. Every production has one. So we have a data wrangler who will ingest all that footage onto hard drives. He will label each shot as to what it is. All of that stuff then gets sent to the editors. The editors will sit in a suite and work to a timeline and throw it down on the timeline. Then a director will sit with the editor and go through the timeline and say what he wants out of it and the story he's trying to tell. And then once all that's done and it goes to an executive will look at it and say, I hate it, because that's their job. And they say, change it. So they have to go back to the footage, find out what other footage they got and keep changing it until the executive says, we're happy with it now. Then it has to go off to a grading house and be graded to make sure that it conforms to the legalities of broadcast television. Once it gets graded, it then goes to a voiceover suite somewhere up in the West End of London with me, and Elvis will turn up and sit where we get to see it for the first time laid down properly, where we lay down our voiceover over the top of it. That then gets laid onto the footage. Then after everyone's happy with all of it, it's picture locked. Then it goes to the network as a delivered show. It's mind-bogglingly, no, I didn't say that right, but you know what I mean.
Mind-boggly huge.
Complicated.
Do you think in this day and age it needs to be?
No, not at all. It's totally unnecessary. And I'll tell you why it's totally unnecessary. Some of it you need to keep. Some of the big days that we do where you need a heavy-weighted camera on a slider with a big lens, great big aperture, where you're taking in scenery, a car, presenters, contributors. You need good filming. It needs to be luscious content. People need to sit back and engage with it. If we went to watch The Traitor tonight on BBC and it was shot with GoPros, it wouldn't feel the same. But they use drone shots, they use those beautiful camera shots, they've lit the place beautifully, the castle beautifully. So you engage, you get drawn into the content. And that's the same with Wheeler Dealers. Every scene is lit. If it's inside, the studio's lit. Nothing gets done, under the bonnet of a car without lights coming in and lighting it properly.
All I can hear, though, from a businessman is overhead,
of course. Yeah,
overhead,
cost money.
overhead.
Yeah, all cost money.
Overhead.
But that's the difference between YouTube and broadcast television. That is the difference.
So do you think you could ever put a YouTube camera team, for argument's sake, Rory and the way Alex do it, onto
Absolutely.
filming a TV set,
You can
give
now.
that to the graders, give that to the thing, and do you think you would either save or make more money, or do you think the broadcaster come down on you and say you don't need that?
Save a ton of money, and it can most definitely be done now. And I'll tell you why it can be done, because you could switch on the TV today on ITV prime time, and they've got to show TikTok 100 videos or the best YouTube videos as a prime time television. So they are showing you as a 1 hour piece of content on ITV or BBC, they are showing you YouTube or TikTok content, which they're happy for the audience to see. And we now live in a world where on the BBC Breakfast, if you would have switched that on pre-COVID, you would never, ever have seen anyone staring into a laptop doing an interview. It was always, they were brought into the studio, BBC would send cars to them, they'd be brought into the studio, powder would be put on their face, the makeup lady had tidied their hair up, they'd be sat in the studio and lit to answer their questions. But since COVID, we've all got now used to either people talking on BBC Breakfast on an iPhone or on a laptop screen, and it's become normal. So we've got used to it. And I genuinely do believe that we could deliver almost the same quality content of Wheeler Dealers on a much better scale. It could be much more free and free flowing if you was to reduce some of the nonsense that goes in behind it. But I have to say, a lot of it is necessary. There are bits and elements of it that are completely necessary. And I believe that we've got Wheeler Dealers down as a show. We've got it down to its sort of bare minimum. I don't think we can get it any more stripped back without literally stripping it back and just handing me a Ronin. You couldn't get any more stripped back than that.
Do you ever feel, because I would imagine what I've noticed with the YouTubers is a benefit of doing it that way is, yes, you don't always get the big beautiful shots, you don't get that kind of stuff, but I've noticed if that van suddenly started smoking now, for argument's sake, the length of time it would take a crew of 5 with cameras over their shoulders to fire them up, get the shots in place, get the right lens on, versus ding, capture the moment.
I get it.
Do you, after all these series,
Can I reverse that?
do you reckon you've missed so many funny bits
Yes.
because of the length of time it takes to film?
Yes, absolutely. Loads. But I can reverse that conversation. If you look at early, I'm going to use Matt Armstrong as an example here because he's the most popular motoring YouTuber in the UK at the moment. If you was to look at Matt Armstrong's videos when he first came out, up until say maybe 18 months ago, they were handheld, normal, everyday, shot on a DSLR or shot on an iPhone or shot with a GoPro or handheld Ronin, whatever they were. They were just bog standard videos. You look at them now, there's epic shots of the cars at the end with sliders. You can see a light cut creeping in. You can see that they're thinking about the shots a lot more. You can see it's starting to get now what we call produced. And it's starting, the cameramen and his assistants are now starting to think about the content and they're starting to produce better content. And that's because they've looked at TV. They've looked at Wheeler Dealers. They've looked at Top Gear. They've looked at these car shows. They've looked at other content and gone,
And the ideas of those TV
why
shows.
can't we get our cars looking as good as Wheeler Dealers? Our cars don't look as good as their cars at the end. And then they've gone, well, they must have used a slider. So we'll get a slider and we'll do a slider. And that's exactly what you start to see on YouTube content.
Joe, I've never thought about it that way, but I've even had those conversations where it's like you've spoke about how you, when you're doing the producing side of building the show, how you put that time into thinking about the episodes that you're going to film and planning them out and where you're going and what's the purpose of going there. And I can now completely apply that on my friends and what I see in their world because they're all now starting to think the same way because of TV. So where I've just been trying to say about bringing the kind of some YouTube elements to the TV side of things because of probably reducing overhead down, Actually, YouTube is taking elements from TV too.
And they are spending a shit ton more money. You know, I know that Freddie is spending a fortune of money out in America.
Oh my God, so much.
It's so much money with his team. He's got his editors now, and he's got people behind him. I know Matt's doing
the podcast costs
fortunes, to put together. So now, you know, what started out as you with an iPhone and started out with you with a good Ronin, you know, what's on a microphone, what started out as that with Freddie and Tavares and Matt and Auto Alex and all these DDEs and all of these people, what started out with that is now they're going, well, our content needs to be richer, it needs to be more engaging, it needs to be more luscious. You know, we need to make it look a bit more like that.
You're so bang on. Because like even in the van environment, even in my podcast, my next thing is, right, I want to hire a researcher. If I can hire a researcher, then I can get them to contact your daughter before we come here today to give us some funny secret story about you that would never get brought up, that I can build into the conversation, or an old friend or anything.
And that's where we've got to with shows like Wheeler Dealers. You know, we've got to, I can remember when we started Wheeler Dealers 22 years ago, it was me and 3 other guys. That's what it started off, 3 other guys. When I turned up in LA to make Wheeler Dealers, and we did 6 years in LA, it's 45 people on production. It started off with 4 people, 5 people. It ended up being 45 people to make the same show, to make the same content, the same show.
So there's 365 days in a year. We're early into this one, but I'm already hearing a lot of them that are going to be used up. So thank God that we've got you to sit there now.
This is that really weird period of the year, isn't it? It's that sort of Christmas week where nothing happens, you know, before Christmas, nothing happens until New Year.
Everyone's ill.
Everyone's ill. It's just a bit slow at the moment. So no, now's the time.
Is it getting you excited? Because what I'm hearing is that you're planning everything.
Everything this year has already been laid out in front of me. I've got a schedule, you know, I've got a big plan of what's going to happen this year. It takes me all over the world a few times. It's very exciting. We've got some great content. I've got some great ideas. And I haven't finished creating. I've got another couple of plans in the back of my head as well. So yeah, it's going to be a good year.
After I had you on the podcast last year, it was really nice because I then bumped into you at Petrol Hedonism Live at Nebworth, straight away over to the stand, always over to the stand. Ben, you must have a T-shirt. I'd like to pay for it. You're not paying for it. I'd like to pay for it. Then I bumped into you again and see you at another show. I can't remember what the next one was after Petrol Hedonism Nebworth. It was the Drive Tribe Live event.
Drive Live, yeah.
You were there. And now we can talk about the fact that you've actually got your own event in that calendar next year. I believe you're doing it with Chiro from Petrol Hedonism. It's at Bicester Heritage, am I right? Which is a fantastic site and local to me. Tell us about it.
Okay, so Chiro has been on my case for possibly 10 years. He's been pestering me saying we need to work together, I do so many shows throughout the year. So live events are my sort of...
Go to them.
No, I host so many live events throughout the year, whether they're, you know, they start off in the end of February, 1st of March this year, where I'm in Miami, which I do a show out there. I then end up doing the Classic Motor Show or the Restoration Show at the NEC, Silver Same Festival. I've done the British Motor Show for 3 years. Then I move on to a show in Boston, or just outside of Boston, Springfield, Massachusetts. I do a show in LA.
Favourite place, honestly. I love Massachusetts.
I do another show in LA, Benedict Castle Concours, which I host. Then I'm back into, where do I go? I go back to Miami to do another show. I'm now going to be doing another show in Florida with Freddie, which is Wrenchworks. It got put off this year, but it's going to happen again next year. This year, I turned up at Freddie's open house to go and support him last month, actually, in Miami, or just outside Miami in Florida. And then my year is taken up with live events. You know, I do a lot of live events throughout the year. And I've had so much success with live events. We get huge crowds that come to listen to me waffle on and see me present up on stage. I've got quite good at it over the years. So Chiro's been on my case. Come on, do a show. And Chiro and my wife, Michelle, once you bang their heads together, it's like a little explosion of creativity and what's happening, nuttiness. So I sort of get railroaded into this. We're doing a show. So I'm like, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's do a show. So Wheeler Dealer Live was spawned from Michelle and Chiro. Wheeler Dealer Live is going to be at Bicester Heritage, which is the most amazing facility anyway to host a car show. On the 1st of June, we've chosen the sunniest day of the year. And we've looked at the last 100 years, and the sunniest day of the year is always the 1st of June. So we've gone 1st of June, which is a brilliant weekend.
I love the logic there.
It's great logic, isn't it? It's going to be amazing. We're going to have everyone that we've mentioned on here, plus more, plus you, plus Calvin's Car Diaries, Sam Hard, Scott Ratterossa, everyone's going to be there. These are people that have actually done it and they know the trade. They've kicked tyres, they've bought, they've sold, they've repaired, they've restored. And we're turning it into an event where people can come along and sell their cars or buy a car. Iconic Auctioneers are putting on an auction there as well in the big hangar. And we're putting on an event where people can come and embrace the world of the car, of our classic car culture or car culture, but at the same time get expert advice about buying, looking after, restoring or fixing up a car. And we'll have a big live stage, loads of food, loads of music. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
I believe you can get early bird tickets at the minute.
Tickets are 30% off. Yeah, 30% off. wheelerdealer.live. So just log on to wheelerdealer.live. Register your interest. If you want to sponsor as well, we're still looking for active sponsors. There's plenty of opportunity for that. If you've got a food truck you want to bring along, talk to us about your food truck. We'd love to have you along. If you've got anything that you want to promote at the show, so you've got a tyre business, a business where you restore wheels, or if you've got a business where you trim interiors, if you want to put your business on display in front of, we hope, 10,000 people on the day, then please do get in touch. You can reach us through wheelerdealer.live, or if you go on to Instagram and look up Petrol Hedonism, or just type in the word Ciro di Campo, and you'll end up with Petrol Hedonism. You can send him a direct message.
And I will leave also a link to that, everybody, in the description below, because no doubt as well I will leave the back door of the van open and everyone can come and see that and make sure I bring some cars down.
That's going to be great.
It's not far from me at all. On the sunniest day of the year, it doesn't take much convincing to get me there.
No, and chicken wings.
But all of those things chip away at that 365-day-a-year calendar. All the things that you listed off to create a show, dense punches, burns up months of that 365-day calendar. And then we're sat in a business that you've got near where you live. You've then got Mike Brewer Motors, all right, you said it runs automatically, and you've got to that amazing point, you've put the team in place up there. But you also, and this is the revelation to me, and I don't know why I've never seen it, manage all of your own stuff without an agent.
All my own YouTube and not YouTube, sorry, all my own social media. After all of that, nobody else does it.
How do you just literally live and encompass work 24/7?
I can't believe you said is there really only 365 days in a year? It's not, is there? I thought it was 1,000 days in a year. No, I just don't stop. I don't like, I don't like to rest.
Is there a point having that house?
Yeah, there is a point having a house, because in betwixt times, if there is an in betwixt time, like every morning when I wake up and I'm at the house, which is rare, but if I'm at the house, it's got lovely gardens. So I wake up, me and Shelby, my little cockapoo, we go for a nice walk around the gardens. I kick some leaves and kick some branches out of the way. And I love it. I love that moment. They are my restful moments. There was another moment this year. It was in June. It might have been June the 1st, sunniest day of the year. There was a period where we have got a sunbed, which is outside. And I remember walking Shelby around the garden. It was a beautiful day, June the 1st, it must have been. And I got back round to the sunbed and I sat on it and laid back and I fell asleep for 4 hours. And I can remember thinking, wow, that was my holiday. That was my rest period. I had that one day just laying on the sun lounger in my big garden.
It's amazing because I think there'll be a lot of people listening that if that's how they spend a lot of their free time, you wouldn't necessarily remember that moment.
No, I remember that moment.
But you do.
Very well. Listen, I'm getting old. I know that there's a finite, I can't run forever. There's going to be a finite point to my popularity or to my energy levels. And I can feel that, that moment is coming. That moment is on the horizon. So I'll keep working flat out until I get there. But, it's not far away. I gather, people might be interested in another year of Mike Brewer. And then after that, I might just retire and sit at home and do nothing.
I don't see you being able to do that because there's always a deal being able to be done
let's wait
somewhere. But you said that you manage all of your own social media.
Yeah.
And the first hint that I got of seeing that in action was that last year, as soon as we finished the podcast, that morning something had happened before you got in the van, and then you saw what was going on actually after you got out the van. So let's hope today's a little bit more lucky. But your Facebook page that actually had over 1 million followers on it was hacked, wasn't it? And it literally, and you've been quoted saying online before that you hate social media and that it can be a really negative, rubbish place. So with a mindset like that towards it anyway, which I think a lot of people have, but with the mindset towards it like that anyway, did that really irritate you and feel like people are coming to your personal space?
Yes, because my social media, particularly my Facebook, is a very clean, family-friendly, lovely environment that you can come along to, find out about us, find out about the shows, get some advice at the same time, and join a community of 1 million other people that are all pulling in the same direction. And to have it hacked and for porn to be displayed on the site continuously was heartbreaking and damaging to my brand. In fact, I still get people message me today that don't believe it wasn't me that was doing it, and I'm like, are you mad? You think I'm gonna put up naked Korean girls on my Facebook page? That's clearly not me. So the page was hacked. I had no help whatsoever, and it's worth anyone out there listening to this who's been hacked. You won't get any support from Meta at all.
Completely agree. It happened to Gertwings in the summer.
Yeah, they won't help you. They just don't care. It's all about money making for them. They couldn't care less because at the same time when they hack me, they are posting up naked Korean girls or whatever, Chinese girls, and generating an income for Meta. So why would Meta take interest in a fan page when they're actually generating income from somewhere else? So they have no interest in it whatsoever. The only way to get it back is I had to reach out on social media to the wonderful public out there, the 1 million followers, the 1 million fans of the page, and say, is there somebody there that can help me? And there was one guy, Abdullah, who worked at an office attached to Meta, who raised it internally. They offered him no help. But what we did do is we slightly scammed the scammers by agreeing. We got to a point, together with a guy that helped me down in New Zealand as well, we got to a point where we almost said to the scammers, they wanted 15 grand. That's what they wanted. They said they spent, 15 grand on to get it, and they wanted 15 grand back and they hand it back. So we got to the point with the scammers where we said, through a mediator, I had somebody mediating for me in New Zealand who said, yeah, okay, we'll give you the money. But you have to prove to us you can hand us back the site before we give you the money. So I had then this guy, Abdullah, waiting on one screen and my friend in New Zealand on another, where we had them temporarily give us back the access to the site, but access that I couldn't do anything with, but I could see that they'd give me back access. But the guy at Meta, Abdullah, who worked in one of their offices, he could get in the back door of that and quickly remove them. And it all happened in like a...
Did you have to pay him anything?
Of course not. We scammed the scammers. And it happened within like a minute on the screens and these scammers in India. And it happened all within like right, we'll give you back access. We got access. Boom, it was right, they're off, they're removed. Okay, we now get rid of them, go. And then they sent 1,000 threatening, we know where you live, we're going to kill you, messages after. And I'm still waiting for it to turn up. So, come and get me, you idiots.
I'm going to change all my passwords after this.
You idiots. But they weren't. They're just idiots, aren't they? They're just people trying to fleece money out of people. That's all it is. But yeah, we got it back. So people have inundated me after, say, how did you get your page back? How did you get your page back? Because it happened to Lamborghini, Chelsea, who reached out. It's happened to loads of people. And I'm going to say there is no way to do it it unless you know somebody who works at Meta.
That's basically what I ended up saying that morning, wasn't it? And you were kind of helpless because it was the first morning. It's like, well, Ben, you've got a digital marketing agency. Surely you can help. It's like, do you know what? We've had this same thing. We had it with Gertwings in the summer that a post went up. It wrongly got identified by the AI as being something it wasn't. There was nothing we could do for months. It took us months to get our account back, and losses of God knows how much money because people weren't able to see where we were trading and locations. And you mentioned Matt on this podcast, and I noticed last week that someone's created a AI TikTok of Matt where they've redone his face and voice saying about selling competition tickets for a car that he had via a link, and it's been all over socials, and he's had to put out it's not me. So it is a savage world we live in.
I've got probably a dozen fake Mike Brewer pages out there, and I think to myself, I do say to people, just avoid them or block and delete them or whatever, but I think to myself, why would somebody want to live my life? Are you mental? I work 1,000 days a year. Why would you want to be me? Don't.
Do you think it's the hardest time to trade and operate you've ever experienced in your career right now?
Yes, in terms of a professional business, it's not the hardest. It's both the hardest and the easiest. You can reach more people directly than ever before. So, for instance, I could step out of this van now, stand out there, tune into my Facebook, go live. We lost 200,000 people on that scam. Go live to like 800 odd thousand people, stand there and tell them I've got that latest van coming for sale. And I can reach them like that. It's 1 million people I could reach within an instant. You could never do that before. But what makes it harder is today it's a review culture. So everyone wants to either, as I say, go and buy a cup of coffee, you review a cup of coffee. So today you have to work really, really hard, which you should do anyway, to make your business the best it could possibly be. And people should be doing that anyway, because if you do something even slightly wrong, they will go online and they will talk about it. And I'll give you, for instance, if you like, somebody that would come here and buy that van, that's, let's take, that 70 plate van over there for 18 grand. Somebody that would come and buy that van has been MOT'd, serviced. But if it drove away from here and a headlamp bulb blew by the end of the road, if it blew a headlamp bulb, I didn't put the headlamp bulb in the van. I didn't build it. So somebody at Ford built that van. I didn't do that. I didn't blow the bulb. The bulb blew. It's the same as, when you buy an iPhone, it goes wrong after a few months, right? Something went wrong with it. So just turn it around and bring it back and we'll put another bulb in it. But people will feel these days more obliged to pull over, reach for their phone and say, I've just bought a van off Mike Brewer and I nearly died because I have no lights. So somebody would be they feel more powerful doing that than they would do just to turn it around and bring it back. And I do explain to customers, and we do get a little bit of attrition here because, they are fundamentally, they're vehicles, they can go wrong. We get a bit of attrition.
And they're vehicles that run people's work as well.
And run people's work. And we do say to people, when they come back with a fault, and it could be anything, it could be a bulb or, it could be the air conditioning needs reacting. I explained to them, I didn't build it, I sold you a second-hand version of it, but don't give me the opportunity to put it right. And if you're not happy, I'll give you your money back. If you are happy, carry on driving it. And that's how we run this business. And so that makes it difficult. The review side of the business makes it difficult, but the way that we can reach an audience makes it much easier. The one thing about the car trade that's shocked me since I've been really back in it over the last few years is just how the whole of the car trade is run by Auto Trader. Basically, you can't function without it. They now own the data. They own the data of what the cars are worth, what they sell for. They own the data of your postcode, what works in your postcode, what doesn't work in your postcode. And let's face it, Auto Trader is a data-run business. They don't own anything in a server somewhere. They don't buy and sell cars, Auto Trader. We buy and sell the cars. They just, are a data analyst. That's what they are. And it's just a box somewhere, sitting in a room, generating billions for somebody. And it's a very clever business.
Do you think it's a good tool?
It's a great tool because we have to rely on it and have to use it. But I'm shocked by the foothold, by the grip they have. BCA, Cinch, They have this grip on the market that is incredible.
What sort of money does it cost you these days with so many cars and so many dealers to run Auto Trader? Could you give us an example on a
I can give you
vehicle?
an example. For me to advertise here each week is costing me about $8,000 a week.
Sorry?
$8,000 a week. Yeah, a week, just to advertise the stock.
And how much stock have you got at this season?
We usually run up to about 50 vehicles in stock, with 50, 60 vehicles. That could be $8,000 a week.
So that could be 30 grand a month.
Easily. Yeah, no, to open the doors here will cost 50 grand a month easily.
Is that like monthly fees and sale of vehicle fees?
Yeah, so it's monthly fees. So Auto Trader own that. You've got no choice, but you have to be there. So it's monthly fees, plus you have to have, other tools like Google Analytics and Google Pushes and Google advertising. Plus you have to, you want a feature.
With your name above the door, with the greatest car dealer of all time, Wheeler Dealer, literally the most known brand name in the world, and you still can't escape the footholds of a platform like Auto Trader in 2025.
No, I wish I could. I mean, funny enough, me and Chloe earlier stood at the door discussing this very same problem, because I've got another build just come in, and we discussed this very same problem. And Chloe said, how many would you sell a month without Auto Trader? And I said, well, we wouldn't sell as many. It's as simple as that. We have to rely on them. They are amazing. It is an amazing tool, but I'm saying it's the grip that it has on the
They don't really have any competitors anymore, do they?
No, it used to be Auto Trader and Exchange
Piston heads.
And piston heads, but they don't have this grip on the market. Them, BCA, Cinch, We Buy Any Car, they've got this sort of grip on the whole of the used car trade that we all run to.
Is that different in America? Because where you've been over in America a lot more and dealt with that over there, is the whole process different to how we work in the UK?
Auto Traders in America as well.
But they've also got they're more, a lot more retail consumers go to bidding over there as well, don't they? Like cars and bids and stuff like that. The culture is different.
It's a completely different market in America, as in people here in the UK, and I gather the rest of Europe, I'm not too sure about it, but in the UK, people like to own their cars. So, I would say only about 20% of our business is finance. People like to own their cars. In America, 100% of the people lease their cars. People don't own their cars in America, they lease them. It seems to be the thing to do. Why would you want to own it? You just lease it. And that's different. That business model is different than the business model we got here. So you see a lot more people changing cars. That's why the used car market is vast in America. Got companies like CarMax. You could drive past CarMax dealers, which you probably have when you've been out to LA or out to Vegas. You drive past a CarMax dealer at 70 miles an hour on the freeway for 10 minutes, and you'll still be driving past it going, they've got like row. And you're going 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. They've got $80 million worth of stock at a CarMax centre. And you're going, how? But it's because it's leased. It's all flowing. It flows really quickly, because once you've had it for 2 to 3 years, you kick it in and get another one. And then somebody goes and gets your second-hand one and has it for 2 to 3 years. It just flows.
Have you ever been tempted to move out to the US? I know you spend a lot of time there, but
I spend a lot of time there. I'd love to be honest with you. I really would. It'd be if somebody asked me where I'm going to retire to, I'd like to say I'd like to retire to California. I'd like to live there, but it's so expensive. That's the problem with the US, especially being in California. You have to pay 10% luxury tax. You have to pay 1.75% property tax every year. And just to put that into context for people, to buy anything in California, I mean, like a 2-bedroom, 2 up, 2 down house, it costs you $1 million. So that means you have to pay $17,500 a year council tax for the rest of its life to live in there. So think about retiring, and you've still got to go and find $17,500 a year.
That may change coming up though soon with Trump and Elon.
No, I don't think so. He'd put it up, if anything.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think he'd put it up. And that's the problem with living in California. You have to be wealthy to live there in the first place. A lot of these, for me, if I wanted to live there, I'd want to live in a $2 million home. So that means I'd have to find $35,000 a year in retirement or near retirement, $35,000 a year just to live there. And that's before you food, your electricity, your
If you go
internet.
to Florida, there's going to be a lot of wind sometimes.
Yeah, there's going to be a storm that comes through every 3 years or 4 years and wipes your house away. So I spent a lot of time in Florida, but I can see that the problems that they've got. Lots of my friends in Florida can't even afford to insure their houses anymore. They've got $3 or $4 million super homes, and their super homes, they can't afford to. They want $2,000 a month to insure it. And again, I'm paying more on insurance than I am on a mortgage. So I'll just stop my insurance. If the house gets wiped away, I'll have to build another one, borrow the money and build another one. It's difficult to live in Florida. It would be difficult to live in California.
Massachusetts
is too cold for me, as in, it's very much like the UK. It's wet, cold, hot, it has all those things. I think if you're going to go that far,
go to the hot bit.
Go to the hot bit. Go to the bit where you can wear shorts every day and a t-shirt, be comfortable, rather than do this. We're sitting in there freezing.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, and that's probably a good point to make, because I think it might be a cup of tea and go, to be honest. But Mike, thank you.
It's a pleasure
for joining me for another hour in the back of my studio. It's been absolutely amazing to have so much insight into a world that many of us don't get insight into. So once again, thank you, and great to see you, mate.
And you, buddy, and good luck.
And book your tickets to Wheeler Dealer Live. It's in the description.
Wheelerdealer.live. And good luck to you in the Road to Success podcast. These are brilliant.